Hey everybody. Okay, so we talked a little bit about sprites the other day, kind of in the abstract, and their practical reasons for existing. And you can find that on from the blog on the class resources link. There is a link under markup and coding called CSS Sprite Best Practices that will direct you to this page, and it talks about them again, kind of as a one comprehensive image that minimizes HTML requests, um, and it talks a little bit about them here as to how they're functioning, but I realize this can be a little bit abstract, so I wanted to shed a little more light on it. The page we are going to make a sprite for is this one that I created. You guys can find it. It is remotely hosted on our server in the Brian directory. So you can see what happens here. I'll scroll up a little so you can actually see what's happening here. There is the at-rest state and there is the rollover state, and it is coming from the same image. You can do a little with Google DevTools. You can click on this and see this is where it is. As just another side point, you can see right here the information where this is drawing from. This is coming from the sprites.css file. This is coming from the main CSS file. And then this little number right here denotes what line it is on the file itself. So if we switch over to the main.css file in Text Wrangler, you can see this is 227 right here. We can go over to 227, line 227, and here it is, item figure. And here it is, item figure. So this is the div that's controlling that. And then here is the pseudo class, the item hover figure. It's on 235. You can see it right here. And all that's happening is this is moving it a negative 200 pixels on the x-axis. Again, a little abstract, but I'm going to show you that. We can see from our CSS that the item is 200 pixels by 200 pixels. So we're going to go over to Photoshop. I've already resized these images. We have an at-rest image, and you can see that right here. This is what they look like at rest. In fact, here is that specific one. So just to show you, under image size, it's 200 pixels by 200 pixels at our screen resolution of 200, or sorry, at our screen resolution of 72 dpi. This is the same. Now, remember we want to create a sprite that has both of those. So what we're going to do is create a new document that is 400 pixels wide and 200 tall, and we'll call this Sprite. Here it is. I'm going to copy both of these just by selecting everything. You can press Command A, you'll see these little marching ants. I'm going to press Command C, and I'm going to switch over to the Sprite and paste it. Now you'll notice this one is black and white. These are colored. Don't worry about that. I'm doing some fancy Photoshop magic behind the scenes that doesn't really concern things. So I'm going to drag them to their respective spots. Here's the at rest on the left and the rollover state on the right. And this is going to make our sprite. That is how we do it. Now, again, the reason why we made it 200 by 200 is because that's what it was made in here, but know that you could make this 300 by 300, and as long as you corresponded your artboard size or your photo size, no big deal. The other thing we would need to change is this background positioning thing that I'll talk about in a second. So, at any rate, we have our sprite, and we would save it, and we'd put it in the correct folder, wherever you may be saving them. That's how we've made the actual image. What's going on behind the scenes is this. So here is what we're essentially looking at in isolation on the web page, right? We have our field, we have our div area, that's 200 pixels by 200 pixels. Here it is at rest. Here's the x-axis, the y-axis is unlabeled, and then these just give you a point of reference. It's 200 pixels wide, 200 pixels tall, but again, you could change that to whatever as long as your image size corresponds to the width and the height. So here we are at rest, no mouse over. And this is what it looks like behind the scenes. We created a 400 pixel wide file. We're only seeing 200 pixels of it, right? This is hanging out outside of the div and it's hidden. It is cropped, to use kind of Adobe parlance, but it is invisible to us. All we can see is this 200 pixels by 200 pixels. So then when you go to the hover state, and you can see this on line 235, we've told it to move over on the x-axis a negative 200 pixels. So that shifts it to the left 200 pixels. And all of a sudden, when we're hovering, we can see what was over here is now getting shifted, and what was visible at rest is now hidden. So it's just like a little viewfinder, and our CSS is telling it to shift over 200 pixels to the left. So that is essentially what's going on in the abstract. And again, if you were to make these 300 pixels, let's say you made your width 300 by 300, you would want this to correspond to the width of a single image. So this would also have to change to 300 pixels. But relationally speaking, that's what would need to change. So you can take your photos, decide what size you want them, create the artboards, and then change this. You could potentially just, if you don't want to do any coding at all, you could make your your image size 200 pixels by 200 pixels, which is what I did. Again, you don't have to change anything about the original coccyx file that I gave you, but just know that that's kind of what's going on. That's it. Again, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.